What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. We're gonna talk about C14, not Clanton, historic barrio, Southern California, but C-XIVers, this crip Norteño thing that dates back like 35 plus. Um, and I'll be honest, coming up in the Bay Area as a Northerner, the whole blood crip thing was kind of weird, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. There's plenty of folks that are with the business, but like I knew poly bloods, I knew poly crips, I knew Asian bloods, I knew Asian crips. Got along with the Asian bloods, got along with the Polynesian bloods. The Asian crips and the Polynesian crips for the longest time seemed like they thought I was a blood, right? They didn't understand what a northerner was. It was like red versus blue. I wear blue, I see red. You're the enemy, and so of course you react the same way, right? Uh, in Concord, first time I heard of C14, I've been out in Concord, Pittsburgh area for a couple of years before I went to prison. So it's like 95, right? I'm 18. Um, we're beefing, right? So the North is beefing with the South, beefing with TCG, right? Tiny Crip Gang, and Tiny Rascal Gangs, another Crip gang. Um, then us and the Tongans link up against the Southsiders, right? And that's where I first heard this thing like C14. What is C14? Oh, bro, Crips and Norteños rock together in YA, rock together in prison. Like, we're linked up. I was like, man, that would have been nice for you to tell you big ass dudes this a long time ago, right? Um, but so, the couple skirmishes happened, some kind of big deal skirmishes happened, and that was that. I went off to prison. And some of those Tongans are still really good friends to this day, right? So, then I go to prison, right? So, 96, and in prison, the whole thing is the North and the Blacks rock together, right? But it's not really group specific. It's just the Northerners in general and the Blacks in general. And of course, some you talk to more than others, or you get along with more than others, or whatever. But we shared our same side, the same side of the yard, just like the whites and the Southerners, blah blah blah. And and so I got used to that, right? Got indoctrinated into that, so to speak. And it was easy because again, coming up in the Bay, you go up around hella black people, and so it was what it was, right? It was cool. Then also I hear these little C14 things now and then, right? Mostly from Black Crips, right? And not many. It just comes up every now and then. Oh man, we was rocking over here, or one of your homeboys came down south, slid him a piece type thing. And I was thinking, man, what makes this different, right? Like I thought we rocked with the blacks, they rocked with us. Now there's like this special thing of C14, C-XIV, which makes no sense to me because we run our own program, we do our own thing. But then that's not really been implemented there. It's not like we have some special relationship with the Crips on the yard there, right? If anything, have more of a relationship with Bay Area bloods. I mean, Bay Area blacks and some of the bloods. So it was just, it wasn't really making sense. But it's whatever. You first come to prison, a lot of stuff ain't gonna make sense. You just go with it, right? And as I'm in prison, I start to realize this north-south divide isn't just for raza, right? It's different for other groups, but Bloods and Crips from one end of the state don't necessarily rock with Bloods and Crips from the other end of the state. And there was an incident with a Blood. Not even really an incident, man. A Blood from SAC bumped into a homie at night yard, spilled his coffee on homeboy's new sweats. He just got in his package. So he's upset. Didn't feel like the Blood responded appropriately, right? So he comes and gets at the fellas like, hey, how we gonna resolve this? And there was a Blood right there, standing close by from Bompton, he would say, but from Compton. And we had talked before. He'd been around, carried himself, pretty serious guy. Seemed like he had a little bit of influence over the cats he kicked it with. And so I pulled him to the side and was like, hey, this is what happened, right? He says, who? Told him who it was. He's like, man, I don't speak for him. We don't claim him. Threw me off. Well, you're a Blood, right? Like, you would never hear a Northerner be like, oh, no, I don't speak for them. If it's a Northerner, it's a Northerner. So I was kind of thinking of them the same way. No. That doesn't mean that they beef, and I've heard over the years, I've talked to plenty of people, I've seen myself that different yards operate different ways. It kind of depends on who's there and a bunch of other factors. So I'm not trying to put 10 on it. I'm just saying that they don't necessarily work hand in hand all the time. So what does that have to do with C14, right? Glad you asked. I was talking to a homeboy of mine, right? A good friend of mine. We done time together with friends. And we're talking about a bunch of stuff, and this whole C14 thing came up, and I'm like, man, I'm trying to figure out, like, how does this make sense? In what world did this happen, and why? He's like, well, I can tell you I was there. Okay, cool, do tell. And he did. And he saw me the picture that's in the thumbnail, right? Which is a homeboy, little junior, holding up his shirt, showing off Sanjo, and then Bandito from Fresno. And then at the bottom, there's some SOS Crips and some Crips from SAC, right? And so he's like, I took that picture. That's 1987, DeWitt, one of the very first C14 crews. I was like, man, okay, so what's the deal? So the way he explained it was just like in prison, in YA, a lot more people are from down south than from up north. And so a lot of folks from Southern California, black, white, raza, whatever, viewed folks from Northern California as inferior, right? Less sophisticated, copycat gang members, you name it, right? And we've all heard that stuff before in our own circles, And so that was true with the Crips. The Crips from Southern California had the Crips from Northern California on the sign. But while you don't really have black bloods in the Bay, right? Again, San Jose is kind of an exception. And so back in the 80s, San Jose wasn't even considered part of the Bay by most people. So that's a different story. You have had black bloods and black Crips in Sac and Stockton and Modesto and Fresno and places like that, right? And there's a reason for it, which I'm going to do a video about in the near future and kind of explain why. But so those same neighborhoods, right? Those Crip neighborhoods in Sac are also northern neighborhoods, right? Those Crip neighborhoods in Stockton are also northern neighborhoods. And so folks are now in YA together. They grew up together. They went to school together. They know each other. They rock with each other. And, YA, things are different. The politics are different. The rules are different. And so they were able to put something like this C14 together. And a lot of it really was getting off with blacks from the Bay Area, apparently, which I thought was kind of interesting. And just sort of catching fades and having each other's back. So there wasn't any real large scale riot back then, right, in the late 80s, that I'm aware of, that included kind of C14 going to war, right? C14 going to war against the South or whatnot. And now you talk to people that were in YA in later years, and C14 did include some Crips from Southern California as well, right? And so I think it just kind of changed and grew and shifted a little bit depending on where folks were at, who was comfortable with who, and what kind of relationships existed and what the needs were, right? What the challenges were. And folks just kind of adapted with that. And so it was never a real significant thing in prison. It was more in YA, right? It started in YA. And some of those relationships carried over to prison. But even if there wasn't a technical C14, that probably would have happened anyways, because that's how a lot of Northerner black relationships in prison are. It's based on, hey, man, we come from the same place. You know what I mean? So there you have it, man. Hopefully you have a better idea of what C14 was. I'm not aware of it really being much of anything these days anywhere. But if I'm wrong, man, tap in on the comments. And so there are Crips, now that are rocking with Southsiders in the Bay. So there you have it, man. Hopefully you have a better understanding of what C14 is. I've been seeing in the comments on some of my other videos that apparently Crips, right, Asian Crips and Polynesian Crips are rocking tough with Southsiders in different neighborhoods and places throughout the Bay Area. And so that's a change. It wasn't really like that when I was young. We were beefing with Crips and we were beefing with the South, but I never really seen Crips in the South, join forces against the North. They kind of had their own issues too. But again, that was the 90s, and it was a different animal. And so there you have it, man. Help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. And tap into the other content, man. I got all kinds of stuff. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Be another one. Take care.